group of guys. And you just, as you're driving, you just pop channels, find the next one, keep moving. They also have neat tricks like our repeater controller at the main site now has a door sensor on it, so it can tell when somebody opens the door, and then it starts screaming, "The door is ajar. The door is ajar." It does this every 45 seconds till we tell it to shut up. This is designed to annoy anybody on the repeater, so if somebody does, in fact, break into the repeater, there will be somebody out there to investigate shortly. It also has some other neat things like, "The repeater is on fire," which we wired into the smoke alarm, or "No power," which we wired into the power sensor. The repeater will continue to operate even if we lose main power for roughly 40 minutes before we run out of battery on the UPS. That's the time frame that one of us has to get there to walk over to the 10,000 watt gen set setting next to it, yank the pull start on it, plug in an extension cord, at which point it stops whining. Wow, I made slides. I don't even remember making these. Okay, polyphasers. These are lightning arresters. We have just put a lightning rod in the air 200 foot up and are now asking for it. Trees are nothing compared to this. I have just put a grounded superstructure 200 foot in the air and then stuck a chunk of metal on top of it. Yes. Yes. Yes, point right up at the top of this. You are asking to get hit by lightning. Well, we know every time our repeater gets hit by lightning because we hear "controller ready," and the thing resets. We can sit out there during lightning storms and listen to it go, "Ready." Wham! Ready. Is that what I thought? Wham! Ready. Yes, that was exactly what you thought it was. Repeater gets hit by lightning all the time. You just have to engineer around the fact your repeater is going to get hit. This is what polyphasers were invented for. Polyphasers are these wonderful little devices which you put inline in your coax, inline in all of your control signals, and inline anything else. And when they see the, several, I'm trying to think, billion, million, yeah, somewhere in that volt spike from lightning come at it, it shunts to ground and sends the lightning down to the path it wanted at the ground, as opposed to ground through your extremely expensive gear that you scavenged. The only time this doesn't work is when the lightning chooses to strike a direct strike on your antenna, and your antenna decides to vaporize. I've had this happen. I've rebuilt the station after it. It took a lot of damage. The polyphaser saved the expensive stuff. We actually had pieces of the antenna found a quarter mile away by an engineering student going, "What's this?" Walked into class, his professor said, "That was the antenna that was on the roof." "What do you mean?" "It got hit by lightning the other day." And same night I was over there looking up saying, "Well, okay, we are in Michigan, and it is in the middle of a thunderstorm, and the clouds are dark, and the antenna is gray. But I don't see our antenna up there." So I walked around the other side of the building. Still not there. Grabbed my camera with the zoom lens, zoomed in on it. Well, there's a bird sitting on the little radio to dissipate static electricity, but there's no antenna on top of it. This explains a lot. This was a very long day. Anyway, polyphasers. Get them, use them. They're expensive. They will save your more expensive gear. Test gear and jumpers. Remember my story of shoveling connectors? And, well, although it seems tempting to, don't use a pitchfork on the stack of jumpers that you need to use, because you will go through the jumpers and then you will be very sad. This is part of the adapter conspiracy. Everybody chooses a different standard to put on their equipment. Some people use BNC, some people use N. These are two of the sane and reasonable standards. It's when you start hitting T and C, reverse polarity in. Let's see, there's SMA, there's half a dozen others. I have a $100 set of everything to everything, so I can generate a reasonable cable or a reasonable adapter when I end up desperate hunting for a wire. It's expensive. You will be going through adapters like crazy if you ever get in this. You will collect literally pounds of adapters that you will have to have on hand when you're working on the repeater, because no matter what happens, you will not have the adapter you need on site unless you have all of them with you. The other wonderful toy, which I assure everybody that gets into radio needs to at least play with and have a friend who has one, if not own themselves, is a service monitor. How many people in here have ever played with a voltmeter and knows how it works reasonably enough that they can test a battery with it? Excellent! Okay. The service monitor is that equivalent for RF, except it also includes all the other options on your voltmeter that you've ignored from day one and still don't know what they do. I honestly don't know what some of them do. The service monitor allows you to do a frequency analysis, see where your repeater's actually transmitting, see if it's transmitting in places it's not supposed to be transmitting, generate test signals into your entire setup. I use it for tuning cans when I don't feel like tuning with a live 300 watts of power behind me, because if it arcs or I do something wrong, the power might come out and touch me, and I don't want that experience. You can feed a test signal in one side and get a frequency representation out the other, and see where it is peaking and where it is low, all that other fun stuff. Very neat toys, very expensive toys. Consider it about the cost of a reasonable used car. And the worst part is, you don't need only one, you need two, if you're going to be staring at two test points in the network. Anyway. Community! Yes, community through technology. I had to throw this slide in here for fun. For those who want to learn how to do repeaters, and you're like me and poor, the best option you have is to find an amateur radio club that has a repeater, and there's a guy who's willing to teach you about it because he doesn't want to do it anymore. You will end up learning more about running a repeater in the first 6 weeks of having to do it than you will ever do so by actually reading a book on the subject. I should point out, I don't know of any good books on the subject because I learned through the immersion method called "Get This Done Now or You're Not My Friend Anymore." Huh? No, just kidding, kid. Figure it out. Right. I don't know of any good books on the subject. I wish I did. Best thing, find somebody who knows what they're doing. Get them to teach you. Usually the best way to do this is by being free labor to move the heavy stuff for them. Because, as I alluded to earlier, yes, ham radio is a move heavy stuff hobby. Makes photography look downright simple. Other bonus, if you work on somebody else's hardware, this means you don't have to buy it, and when it breaks, they may blame you, but they probably won't hold you financially responsible. This is wonderful. This allows you to experiment and learn. And if you come up with a harebrained wild idea to try, and you bounce it off the guy and says, yeah, go do it, now you've just pulled off something silly. My personal favorite story about this. So, one of the groups I work with, we all have Nextels. This is because we all ended up with Nextels for one reason or another. Everybody who has a Nextel knows its sound. You all know it from the commercials. Well, I figured out how to contort our repeater controller into playing back an arbitrary audio file as its courtesy tone. A courtesy tone is at the end of the transmission, you on key, and the repeater goes beep, and you know you can then start speaking again. It forces you to slow down because otherwise you go at 1,000,000 miles an hour. So what we did was we re-recorded the Nextel chirp thing from Direct Connect and played that as the courtesy tone. This got everybody amused, but what really ticked them off is when we re-recorded the battery low warning and used that as the courtesy tone. It caught me, and I'm the one who did it. I'm going, what do you mean battery low? Picked up my next tone, and then I look, oh crap. We had fun with this for nearly 3 months, changing the courtesy tone to anything we could come up with, including various people on the repeater going beep. So the repeater did not go beep, it said beep. We did have the Roadrunner for a while. Meep, meep. And it goes off. And we never did real barnyard animals. It was amusing. I twisted the controller into doing this. This is not covered in the manual. This was just a realization. You know, if I hook these 3 parts together, okay, cool, try it. Various groups I have hung around and spoke with. ARPSC/Elcedra. Welcome to acronym PAIN. That is the Amateur Radio Public Service Corps for Ingham County, or the Lansing Civil Defense Repeater Association. And since essentially all of the members are the same people, I like slewing them together when in fact they are entirely 2 separate processes with 2 separate organizations and 2 separate sets of politics. They run 4 repeaters in Lansing. If you want to work on a repeater, you go to the meeting, you sign up, you pay the $5, and then you volunteer to fix the repeater with the guy who actually maintains them. This lets you into various interesting places because, of course, all of these repeaters are hosted in the maintenance areas of hospitals, the roofs of various buildings, or on the side of 1,000-foot towers, which happens to have your local 60,000-watt radio station sitting right next to your little amateur radio repeater. So if you like staring at oversized stuff or enjoy touring data centers like Level 3 or something like that, playing with repeaters will get you to the strange places to run into these oddities. And you can go, whoa, cool. Anyone looking at it? Grab your camera, shoot pictures of it, and show your friends, look at what I saw. Seaman. Yes, the name was chosen for the exact reason you're thinking. Get your minds out of the gutter. Ours were there. Southeastern Michigan Amateur Network. This is the group of guys that I learned how to run repeaters with. It is an entire... Okay, ARPSC and Elcedra actually has meetings with agendas, with rules of order and voting. Seaman, we have 1 meeting a year. Is this still working? Okay. We have 1 meeting a year before a yearly ham swap in a little town called Marshall, where we have breakfast. That's the meeting. We have no rules, no agenda, no order. All of the hardware is independently owned and operated, and we all just link it all together. This is done ad hoc at best, and sometimes using ideas in ways that fall under the category, do not try this at home, do not try this at work, do not try this. We are we are amateurs. We know what we're doing. This is a lot of fun because you can do... Really, sir? Really? I think I see a clock here. Thank you, though. This is a lot of fun for the simple reason that you can do stuff which anybody else in their right mind would tell you, no, you can't be done. Working on this repeater says, okay, backing up. You guys remember me talking about descents just a few minutes ago. Turn on one transmitter. Receivers nearby can't hear it. Use duplexers. You can now hear something. Okay, so if I want to link from a UHF repeater to another UHF repeater, most people tell me it can't be done because the transmitter from your local UHF repeater will wash out the link to this remote repeater. That's a lie. You can do it. You just have to be insane and put more duplexers in line and turn them into a chain of 4 and tune out the repeater. All of this stuff is entirely possible. Common statement is it can't be done, but if you have a group of guys like this who will say, what do you mean? Let's try it. And surprisingly enough, things work. we still have to explain to people that, yes, really, sir,